news stories that tie together, two from outer space and two from outer space, if you know what I'm saying. Here we go. The Mars rover is having a little trouble on Mars. It's run into some deep mud or dirt and it's got its wheel stuck. Now, what I find fascinating about this whole Mars rover, is that in 2004 it landed, and it was supposed to be on a 3 month mission to figure out what's going on Mars and to look at it, and it's been running for 5 years. And so they keep kind of like fixing it from afar, and they're thinking that maybe it's just maybe the fact that it's 5 years over its intended use, that they're not going to have it much longer. But this thing is going around looking at Mars, and its little partner Odyssey is running on the other side, or Opportunity is running on the other side of Mars, and it's just terrific. I mean, when I was a kid, the idea of Martians was a big time question, right? It was what ran through all of our head, what Martians were, what they looked like, that there were aliens out there. It's one of the things that religious people have often struggled with, knowing how to think about if there should be these, how you even think about the possibility of there being Martians or aliens. And now we got this thing out there on Mars. So I think that's really fantastic. But it's not just there on Mars. The shuttle liftoff took place yesterday so that they could head out to the telescope and figure what's going on. So now, today, I'm guessing right now, you probably watch this over at NASA.com, we have astronauts that are fixing the Hubble Space Telescope. That's in addition to the fact that there's people living on a space station. I mean, and with all the lack of funding that has gone into NASA in the last 15 years, imagine if we really invested in this and really got into this. Man, we got a telescope, we've got two little carts driving around on Mars that are sending back information. We got people living in a space station. Boy, oh boy, we're now kicking it. I mean, this is now, the world is no longer just us talking about planet Earth. Now it has moved into other places in a big way, in the last 50 years. That's a big deal and is probably not recognized enough by religious folks and religious sociologists about the impact of this kind of understanding, this kind of ventures when it comes to what it's going to do to our religion. If you think about how religion has changed so much with the understanding that the earth is flat, the fact that we now have people living in outer space and we're exploring places on other celestial bodies, it's a religion changer. But don't worry, folks, it's not changing too fast. No, no, no. The Obama administration has planned cuts for its abstinence-only sex education budget. See, the Bush administration had gone very heavily and very strongly into funding sex education primarily through abstinence-only programs and topics. And the people over there in the Obama White House have said, nope, we're not going to do that because we don't believe that it works. It's probably the biggest difference you could see in sex education between the Obama administration and the Bush administration. The Obama administration presents itself, and I think that they're honest and true about this, that they want to do what works, that they're outcome and they are science-based. The Bush administration tended to say, we think this is what's best, and this is the direction we think it should go, and we know that when the government invests in things, that it also sets public policy, and we think the best public policy is abstinence only. Huge differences. Here's the real question. I don't think sex education does much either way. I think it's been very easy to say that abstinence-only sex education doesn't work, and it really doesn't. Case in point, Bristol Palin. But I don't think that other kinds of sexual education are going to work either, because sexuality is a very deep emotional issue for people, and you don't get to it primarily through an education plan. Now, you can say we want to stop sexually transmitted diseases. That's an important thing you can do, and some education that can work around that. But this idea that somehow you're going to find any education program that's being done through community-based education or schools or otherwise, none of them are going to work. None of them work because it doesn't work like that. It involves and what I mean by work, it's not going to work, and it doesn't work like that. What I'm getting at is it's not going to provide the kinds of turnaround that people are hoping for. So let's put $1.3 billion into this over the next 10 years, and then in the end, we're going to have this result. It's just not going to function like that. It's a complex cultural happening that involves families and television and people who make clothing and friends at school and teachers and an individual person's particular bent. So it's got a whole lot of things going on, and this is just downright silly. And the fact that it becomes a religious conversation in some ways, where religion people are arguing for abstinence-only sex education. It's the only that's the problem in there. If you want to, obviously, you should suggest to people that they don't be having sex with folks. Of course you do, but that's not enough to deal with it. Nor is condom-based sex education enough. It's not about, look, sexuality shouldn't be defined simply as a health crisis. So, gets even crazier in outer space, though, over in Findlay, Ohio. I'm just going to read this story. It's not very long. It says it all. I mean, if the Catholics don't get themselves all wound up over Obama moving away from abstinence-based sex education, because then they're going to suggest using condoms, and the Catholic Church is opposed to the use of condoms. Gets crazier in Findlay, Ohio. Here's how it reads. A Northwest Ohio teenager has been suspended by his Christian high school because he attended another high school's prom. Officials at Heritage Christian School, says it all right there, Heritage Christian School in Findlay had warned 17-year-old Tyler Frost that he would be suspended and prohibited from attending graduation if he went to the public school dance over the weekend with his girlfriend. Frost says that he didn't think that going to the dance was wrong, even though his fundamentalist Baptist school in Ohio forbids dancing, rock music, and hand-holding. Frost didn't go to school Monday. Instead, he and his girlfriend are heading to New York for morning TV interviews. The teen says he's now getting Facebook and email messages from around the world. Footloose Revisited. Abstinence only doesn't work, whether it comes from music, dancing, sex, or hand-holding.
60.
Come on. You kidding me? There's larger questions to be raised. This is The Question, Blog Talk Radio conversation with me, Doug Pagitt, your host, broadcasting from 10 till 11. If you are listening on Blog Talk Radio, refresh your browser for the second half. We're joined by theologian Tony Jones. Maybe we'll ask him about these two stories. And if you're watching on YouTube, you know it's just another video away. If you're watching the live stream, just keep it right where you got it, and we're going to keep rolling with you. Blog Talk Radio conversation with me, Doug Pagitt, your host. Feel free to call in to talk to Tony Jones on our studio line, 646-929-1199. We'll be back with you in a minute.